So, good morning, everyone. All right, welcome back. As they say, we are in the midst of doing a fireside chat. How many of you know what a fireside chat is? A conversation. And I'm going to do my best to help this happen. It is called Together We Stand, Forever We Thrive, building off the theme of this gathering these 2 days. This fireside chat is about movement, memory, and momentum, how we sustain the work of HIV and aging together. Each of our guests brings leadership and lived experience to this moment. So I'm going to have each of you introduce yourselves briefly. So Dr. Inge is going to start first. And Dr. Inge, you are going, I'm so proud of myself. I said your name right. I practiced. Jeff, help me. Okay, I want you to give us your name, pronouns if you use them, affiliation, and briefly describe how and why you show up for this work.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Sylvia, I am going to apologize in advance. Sylvia says, don't be too happy, don't be too sad. Today, I am too happy. So I just apologize in advance. I'm a little off-center. And I am happy because I feel so welcome in this brave space. When I showed up today in the lobby, I met Luis, who is from my department, and he says, don't be nervous, it's a welcoming space. And as I showed up in the elevator lobby, I can count how many hugs I have received, and the smiles and the warm reception. So I just want to say thank you for making me feel connected to this place. My name is Olusimbo Ige. I go by Simba, that's like Simba the lion. Yes, and I come from one of the ancestral homes of the African Americans. I come from the southwest side of Nigeria. I was born and raised there. And that is important because today we're talking about memories and how I show up in this space. And I am old enough to remember a time when those living with HIV, I could not have been in this space with you all. And I'm old enough to remember a time when my cousin, my first cousin, where I come from, there is no word for cousin. So a cousin is a sibling. That is the only word we have. We are all brothers and sisters. We don't have anything farther away than that. So when I say a cousin, I say a sibling who was gay, died from HIV. So I'm old enough to remember a time when we couldn't gather this way. And I'm old enough to remember a time when being diagnosed with HIV meant that you were counting your days in months. Now we are in this space celebrating birthdays, celebrating grandkids, and celebrating long-time survivors. So I am so grateful to be in this space. Now my role, so I've switched up the order a little. So I've started with how I show up in this space and what makes me so happy and who I am. But my role right now is as the city's doctor. I am the Commissioner of Health for the Chicago Department of Public Health. And in that role, it is my responsibility to keep my fingers on the pulse of Chicagoans, on the pulse of the city, to ensure that things are healthy and people are healthy and spaces are healthy and relationships are healthy and healthcare spaces are healthy. So I have a fantastic team of people who help me do that every day. And I want the CDPH folks to raise up their hands. I have an amazing team, and it gives me great joy that we contribute to healthy spaces like this. We are about connections, we are about partnerships, and I see in the room also many of our partners, Gary, Caprice, our ShyPack folks who are in this place. They help us think, they help us plan, they help us spend. and many, many other partners. I see John, I see Jeff, I see Brian, many people that we work with every day to serve the community of people living with HIV. So that's who I am, that is my name, that's how I show up, and I thank you so much for being here. You said being here is an achievement, right? Sylvia, that's what you said this morning. So thank you for inviting me and for this opportunity.
Thank you. You have great energy, great energy. And what I heard, what brings you here are the people. So Jeff, same thing. Your name, pronouns, affiliation, and what and how do you do this work? And then we'll ask questions after Dr. Green does.
Sure. So I'll try to keep it brief. I did speak earlier, and I know many of you, almost I think every one of you in this room, pretty much. But my name is Jeff Berry. My pronouns are he, him, and his. But I'll go by anything as long as it's respectful. I am executive director of the Reunion Project. We're a international now, Alliance of Long-Term Survivors of HIV. This is our 10th year, as I mentioned earlier, and really proud to bring it back home to Chicago, where it all started 10 years ago. And, I do this work, I think, a little bit selfishly because it nurtures me. And one of the things I always like to say is that the Reunion Project is really my vision is that it's a perfect balance of science and spirit, and it's kind of like how I walk through my life and carry myself. I think I can't do without both. I need both. I need that grounding, that knowledge and understanding, so that I can live healthier and have improved quality of life, and hopefully help others to do that as well. But also I need that nurturing, like Sylvia's, I don't know if Sylvia's still here, but that amazing grounding exercise is so important, I think, to nurture the spirit and the soul. I try to do that every morning when I get up and dedicate the first few minutes of the day in some way to just centering myself. I do some reading and some meditation just briefly, because as we know, these times are really crazy that we're in right now. And I find that when I do that work on myself, it really helps ground me throughout the day. And so I also like to bring that into the work that we do with the Reunion Project. And so I'll just stop there, and I'm just really grateful to be among so many good friends, old friends, new friends, and community. It's all about community. Thank you.
Yeah.
Give some love to Jeff Berry. We love Jeff Berry for so many reasons. I love Jeff Berry because Jeff Berry gave me my first job in HIV. So what an honor it always is to share a stage with Jeff Berry, as well as Dr. Ige. Thank you so much for being here. I'm Keith Green. I am currently the executive director for the Chicago Black Gay Men's Caucus. I'm also someone who has been living with HIV for over 30 years. And so I started in this work literally as a means to find a way to stay alive. And that's how I found T-Pan and Jeff Berry. And I found a way to stay alive. And then I wanted to make sure that other folks who look and love like me don't have the challenges with finding a way to stay alive that I did before I found T-Pan, right? I went 8 years. I was, when I found T-Pan, I was 144 pounds. We won't talk about how many I am now. I'm not there, but right. And so I do the work to ensure that we build community to prevent any of our young folks specifically, but anybody in our community, from having to be without community, resources, science, treatment, education. I'm a community builder. That's the work that I do, and that's why I do it.
And I'm going to ask each one of you a question. You do not need to wait from me after the first person answers the question for the rest of you to join in and make comment if you like. So I'm going to start with you, Dr. Inge, and ask you, what is the Chicago Department of Public Health's commitment to folks who are aging and living with HIV in Chicago?
Thank you. I want to start with listening and centering lived experience. Whatever I say has to be guided and informed by those who have the lived experience. And to the best of my knowledge right now, for long-time survivors, it is helping to navigate aging and HIV. So that is our commitment, because that is what we have heard. In the few minutes that I've been here, Luis was telling me the conversation yesterday and the things that were elevated, navigating benefits, navigating the healthcare system, navigating the next 4 years, and the uncertainty that comes with that, and navigating the long shadow of stigma that is now sort of creeping back closer to us. That is our commitment, to be present, to use our resources equitably, and to listen and be guided by the needs and the preferences and the priorities of the community.
Yeah, well, we'll wait till the end to clap, but I want you two to reflect on what Dr. Inge said. Thank you.
It means the world to me personally, and I'm sure to many in this room, to hear those words come from the head of our health department, right? Particularly considering how our lives and our identities, particularly the people in this very room, are under such attack and scrutiny, which fuels stigma and shame, pushes people into hiding, puts up barriers to access to care. So to hear that on a local level, our people, who we are, remains a priority, it means the world to me. So I want to just say that, and I think on behalf of the room, say thank you for that commitment from our health department.
Absolutely. Yeah, we could clap on that one. We could clap. We could clap. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I would just echo what Keith said, and Dr. Ige, thank you, first of all, for taking time out of your busy schedule to be here today. Community is really where it all started for me when I was diagnosed, and I had nowhere to go, and I went to an organization. I found this organization that saved my life, basically. And TPAN had funding from CDPH at that time, and without that kind of commitment and that kind of dedication and understanding the importance of building community from the ground up, and that's what we did, because we had to take care of each other. No one was going to do it for us. And I think, we're kind of in that same space today, and I don't want to get a little too off track, because I might talk about that a little bit later, but yes.
All right. No, keep the mic, because you're next.
Keep them, I'm next,
Yeah.
okay.
All right. So you and I have had several conversations, Jeff, about movement building. And so I want you to talk to the group, to the audience, about what movement building means to you and how it can be used to reclaim what has been lost, protect what we still have, and build towards the future. What does that mean for TRP, the Reunion Project?
Yeah, so thank you. Yeah, we were having this conversation the other day, and it came from one of the news sources that I follow. I don't watch mainstream media much anymore. I think it's really important for us to vet our sources, where we get our information, and also to limit the amount of information because there's so much swirling around us right now. But one of the, Heather Cox Richardson has a blog, Letters from an American. I recommend if you read anything, you follow any news, it's free, it's on Substack, she's on Facebook. But she kind of puts everything, she's an historian, she's not a journalist, and so she puts everything in the context of history, which makes it really interesting because many times in this history of this country, we've been here before, but she had a guest on, I think his name was Andy Kim, he's a representative from New Jersey, he's no longer in office, but he was talking about how we need to really focus on strategy on movement building. It's not it's a new time right now, and so I think the only thing that's going to save us is ourselves, and we need to lean on each other. We need to collaborate more intentionally, I think, than we ever have before. We've seen what's happened in this city in terms of ICE and the attacks that have been happening. We're the testing ground, and so I think it's great to see the movement building that's happening here, what the governor is doing in terms of making sure that everything is documented, because there will come a time when people will be held accountable for what's happening right now. And so I think as we're working in HIV, in particular among people who are living with HIV long-term and long-term survivors, it's going to be really important that we partner with other aging organizations that may not be specifically focused on HIV, but are doing work in aging. John, touched on this with the work that they're doing at AFC, but also, with other HIV organizations, and around HIV and aging and long-term survivors. And I think the fact that we've had experience, we built the systems that currently exist. They're not perfect for people living with HIV. We fought for them. We made sure that the clinical trials were developed by and for people living with HIV. We made sure that there was fast access and a fast track to approval for these drugs that saved our lives. And we're going to have those kind of strategies again. Really thinking outside the box, really working and making sure that everyone is involved in the solution, because no one else is coming here to save us.
Keith or Tatinka, go ahead.
That last part, all of it was critical, but the last part is particularly critical. Nobody's coming to save us. And I think that if we think about like interventions, right, good interventions happen in stages. And I think right now we're at a stage where we are probably in denial about that. We think that somebody or something is coming to save us. And there needs to be some acceptance of the fact that we're in denial, and then that ain't nobody coming. And then we can move into strategy and action.
That's right. That's right.
The period of time that it takes us to get from one stage of this intervention to the next stage of this intervention is critical. Like, we gotta accept that we've been in denial and that ain't nobody coming today, and then tomorrow we have, because we're not quite there, right? I think some of us are, but we're not there collectively. And so we need to figure out how we collectively get on the same page and figure out what we're going to do. Understanding that nobody's coming to save us, how do we save ourselves? What does that strategy look like? Right? How do we build community? How do we make sure that all of us understand what's going on, all of us understand what our rights and resources are, and how to tap in when I need to tap in, right? Because I may not need to tap in right now. I may be good. That might not be the case next week. That might not be the case next month. How do we keep connected to community, to one another, to whatever our resources, our known resources, trusted resources are, so that we survive and we stay alive? But it's not just surviving and stay alive. We have to be on the front lines in whatever way that looks. For you, it'll look different for everybody in this room. In whatever way that looks, we have to be advocating not only for ourselves, but for our communities.
Yeah, we have to be our own superheroes. That's what I heard you saying. We're going to become Marvel, y'all. Okay.
Yes. I just wanted, we're talking about movement, and I want to just make a call for action. See, people are working very hard to erase, to make less visible people living with HIV. To erase and make less visible the LGBTQ community. That is step one. When people are not recognized, are not seen, then their voices don't matter. Yeah. Then the resources will not come to them. This is really important, and I know that this is challenging because if everywhere in the world, I have worked in 42 countries that I have worked where there has been success in making things invisible. It starts with dehumanizing people, saying these folks are not as important, they're not as significant. And that is beginning to happen now. And we have to make the community visible. When you see me on LinkedIn saying, we did this and we did that, it is very intentional. That public health remains visible. There are 40 departments jostling for resources in this city. 90% of my budget comes from the federal government. I have lost 600 million already. By the end of this year is another 200 million. So if I don't make it visible what this funding is doing and how much it matters to the tens of thousands of people who are depending on these resources, I am going to be made invisible. The work of public health and the work of prevention and the work of continuing to support people living with HIV is going to be made invisible. We need stories, we need examples. And it is not just us talking to each other. We need those who are not part of this community recognizing that we matter. Yes. Because when there are debates in city council about where money should go, it is never that it should go to public health. If there is no money in public health, how do I support those who need housing and those who need food and those who need legal support? Because everybody is coming after people who living with HIV. So my call to you all is, how do we tell the stories? If we're going to build a movement, we need stories. We need faces behind the work. We need to be visible. So, and I know you all are in the spaces doing the hard work, but we are going to have to make some noise.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you.
Can I ask a
No.
follow-up question?
I need to get to
Okay.
you. I need to ask you a question.
Okay.
Okay, you ready for it? So how do we ensure the survival of Black gay men over the age of 50 years old?
Oh, that's so good. I'm gonna, in some ways, sneak that follow-up question in, right? Because I think that this is such an unprecedented time where, although I have been brave enough to live my life very out loud, right? What does that mean right now, though? What does that mean to feel like a target? Literally, living my life out loud and being brave enough to do that is one thing in a brave space. This is a hostile environment. What does it mean to do that? And what does it mean to protect those who do that? And I think that was going to be my follow-up question. And so if we can get it in there, throw it in there. But what I'll also say is that to ensure our survival, we have to be visible, and we have to create community that supports, stands with, nurtures those who choose to be targets. Because we're all targets, but some of us choose to be targets in different ways, and we have to figure out how we support our communities in that. And I would love to hear Dr. Egan.
Okay, thank you. You're letting her claim some of your time. All right.
Brian said maybe the word for the moment is brave spaces, that showing up, but there is need for the coalition. John Pella is very active. He knows how the system works. There is safety in numbers, in coming together as coalitions of people. That's one way to do that, so that it's just not the one group or the one person. It's more people. I'll use the example of Me Too. If it's one voice, it's one person, but it's a movement of people saying, I am also impacted, I am also impacted, it provides a little bit of cover. Things are a little weird right now, where the attack has not been so frontal. Now it is very frontal. So I think it's important for us to be strategic in mobilizing support, not taking on the federal government directly, but building a grassroots movement, because political leaders respond to their constituent. If it's going to cost them a vote, that is the only thing that political leaders respond to. And the political leaders determine where the dollars go. And the dollars determine our long-term survival. That's it. When people are older, they just need more support. They need age-friendly homes. They need different kind of food. They need mental health support. We can't do all of that without funding. So we need some grassroots. Are we being recorded? Because I am a public official, and I cannot organize.
No, you said it, grassroots movement.
Yes. And that needs bridging beyond those who are living with HIV, but those who love people living with HIV, and those who care about our cause, and more voices saying, this is important, this should be centered, this should continue. An example or a success story is, initially when all the federal proposals came through about the changes in funding, there was such an uproar. We are not completely safe from the cuts, but it is much better than where it started. The city is in a difficult position right now. Everybody's asked to cut funding and all of that. But there was engagement, and there was education, and there was, building. And I have been spared those cuts. So that's what I mean by building coalitions and reaching the right people who can make things happen. Because we need resources to support the community for the long term.
Yeah. Wait, excuse us.
Complacency will be our downfall.
Yes, I'm going to come to the audience. Yes, I'm going to come to the audience. Give me. I got two hands up. Does anybody want to comment on what Dr. Ngay? I saw your expression.
I just think
And then I'm gonna
everybody
come to
should
you,
write down,
and then you.
the dollars determine our long-term survival. The dollars determine our long-term survival. Write that down.
That's right. That's right. And at one point or another, all of us in here, and what you mean? No, I got some time over here. Okay, but thank you very much, Gary. Can we take a few more minutes? Yes, we sure can. So what we're going to do is we're going to have a respondent here, a respondent on the other side. Is there a male that wants to speak up? I'm going to come to you. Okay.
Very quickly, thank you all for all of your comments and insights. I just want to say, we keep saying that no one's coming. That's because we are who we have been waiting for. And we have to realize that we are who we have been waiting for. And people with HIV are looked at right now as being disposable. Everybody's fighting for their rights. Everybody's screaming. We have to scream the loudest. We have to be the most vocal, the most audible, the most audacious. Like the commissioner said else, we will be invisibilized. So let us not invisibilize ourselves, right? We have to save ourselves. We are who we have been waiting for.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Good afternoon, good morning, what time is it? Hey everybody, Louis Spraggins, been positive since 2001, thriving with the virus thanks to community and friends. A number of things that you all said spoke to me. And so I think what I want to share is a bit of a combination of them. Hearing the stages that Keith talked about. How are we going to move forward? How are we going to survive this? How are we going to not just survive this, but thrive as we move into the future? So the stages, we need a first stage of, yes, recognizing where we are and really dealing with reality where we are. So that would be the start. But after that, I think what the next stage is about building community. Because the next thing is, how do we get through this? We have to get through this together. There's no way to get through this without each other. The other third piece, I think, or stage, is what I think of as being a bursting of the bubble. And when I say a bursting of the bubble, it pops in my head, it's like, we need to burst some of these bubbles because most of us are living in these social bubbles. And like Dr. Ige was saying, like, oh, you need to talk to the people that's next to you, yes, but there are people outside of your circle. And one of the things that this system, the folks in power currently are doing is pitting us against each other. And as long as we are continuing to live in these social bubbles where we don't understand what other folks are going through, or don't understand that other folks might be going through the same thing that I'm going through, or that maybe what I'm going through will help them and what they're going through will help me, until we burst these bubbles that we live in and start to actually merge our worlds and start to care about each other the way we care about ourselves, we're not moving forward. We're going to stay right here. They're going to keep on pitting us against each other. They're going to keep pulling money away from us, and it's having us say, well, you took the money and the pot is smaller. I deserve more of the pot that's smaller than them, instead of saying, why the hell isn't the pot bigger in the first place?
Thank you. And I love what you, Wahida, and I love you, Louis, for saying what you're saying. And Dr. Green, I now understand why you pivoted from population to community.
Thanks. I'm Denise. I've been living with HIV 32 years, and I've heard partnering with other agencies, but I'd like to ask, what are the barriers that are stopping that from happening? You know, we've been saying this now for a while, you know, and is it that because we're all going for the same pot of money? Is it because funding is shrinking? Is it because we're just competitive with one another? Are we hogging the information? What's happening?
Yes.
So thank you for your question, because it really is where I was going, or trying to go, or thinking about how to like word it, and it helped. We were an unhealed community before the attacks began. We were an unhealed community before the attacks began. You can't expect an unhealed people to be able to effectively mobilize when it is under attack. And so the responsibility of how we got unhealed, we can talk about, we can dissect that all day long. It's our responsibility now is to heal. And what does that look like as a community in the midst of attack? It's just that much more worse.
Thank you for saying that.
No, you stated it better than I ever could, Keith, but I keep thinking when I'm in these meetings and when I'm on these calls and I'm hearing the same, it's like, no, we're in a different time. And it's like, I want to just like reach out and just like shake people sometimes, because they're operating on this old method of thinking, which, it doesn't serve us well right now. It doesn't, and I don't know that it ever did. I feel the division and the divisiveness is just even more pronounced now, because we're all feeling under attack and we're all striking out, lashing out. I was pounding on a cab door the other day because he nicked my car as I was sitting over here in front of the Whitehall Hotel, and I caught myself later, and I was like, I realized I took out my frustration of the world on this poor cab driver, who was looking, he was screaming at me, I'm screaming at him, and everyone was, people were on the street were all, like, what's wrong with this dude? But it's easy to get lost in the swirl of chaos right now. And so, again, it comes back to, we are the solution, we are the answer, but how do we bridge that? How do we address the unhealing, or do we just call it out and say, no, this is not the time, we gotta work together and fight.
We gotta deal with our egos.
Dr. Ige, I love what you've said. I love what you all have said. What's resonating is the need to mobilize again, thinking outside of the box. What's also ringing in my head is emergency preparedness. I'm not sure if you can answer this, but maybe you can, or maybe you can think about it. Disaster plan. We're already losing money, SNAP, Medicaid. When people get depressed, they cope by getting full. They get full. Sometimes they're not having sex that's safe for them. Have you had the opportunity to speak with the HIV leaders and develop a contingency plan or an emergency preparedness plan with numbers that might be spiking already?
Thank you. We're not going to respond yet. We're going to hear everybody, and then we're going to let you close out, Dr. Ige. Okay, wait, no, not yet. Thank you.
So just to clear the myth, some of us were told many, many years ago, once we got the diagnosis, that we would be dead. Guess what? We're not. So science has taken over and things have expanded. We're still present. Moving forth, how do we, as long-term survivors, allow you to still support us? We know the framework is so old, it's so dated, it's ridiculous. Yet and still, you still fund those particular dynamics. I think once you modify some of the language around the base of what it is that you're funding, it'll change, it'll shift the narrative. But until you're willing to take that, we live with it every day. Someone says, I wake up, and my friend, I wake up with HIV. He doesn't wake up with me, I wake up with it. You know, so I've taken the power away from the HIV narrative. However, the support is still needed for me because I'm on the front. I was forced into the work. I needed survival. And because of me needing survival, I had to look toward the people who had the money. And when you had the money, you pushed me, well, what's going to happen if you do this? So I was on the front line, visibly documented as a test dummy. Well, here I am now, test dummy 40 years later, still living, but the framework hasn't changed. When are you going to modify that?
Keep that in mind. We got 2 more. I'm going to go in the back and then come to the front, and then Dr. Inge, I need you to be ready.
I'm 74 years old. I've been HIV positive that I known as a result of brain surgery that I had in 2002. And that's when I was diagnosed. I've lived a long time and seen the same old thing over and over again. I love you all, whatever color, whatever religion, whatever race. That's going to be the first thing that's going to help the world to heal itself. When you speak money, you lost already. 1% or 2% of the world controls all of the money. They control all of the power, but they don't control all of us. And in our minds, we need to accept everyone as they are, not how we want to make them, because that 1 or 2% controls all of this other noise that is going on in our brains. The young lady that gave us some information about how to get yourself focused. We need to focus on everyone. We're all in the same boat. If you're making $100,000, $10,000 a year, we need to have a Bill of Rights for all human, regardless who, what, and where they are. We have to erase the stigma of communism, socialism, isms, Buddhism, Christianity, whatever. Okay, real quick.
One last time. Come on.
No, that's it. I mean, if you take that, you start with that.
That's right.
Again.
That's right. Thank you. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you. We got one more.
What I heard was that dollars don't necessarily
go
determine
speak into
our
the mic.
long-term survival, but love will determine our long-term survival. That's deep.
My question is, all this week I have heard about long-term survivor, which I am too. But I work with newly diagnosed people. Because of all the funding is being cut, they're not supported how we were supported. So I was trying to process my question, but I heard it when Denise spoke about the bridge, right? We talking about the bridge, and Capri talked about the framework, right? Yes, I've been living with HIV for 25 years. So by me living with HIV for 25 years, I had support. Now we know they cutting funding, right? If you cutting funding, how can the newly diagnosed people live for 5, 10, 20, 25 years? So I hear all of this, but people still getting HIV.
That's a great question. Great question. Thank you for asking that. And I'm going to give the floor to you, Dr. Inge. And then Jeff and Keith, you're going to close out with a couple of comments.
Yeah. Thank you all. I'll start with the disaster plan because that's one of the things we have some experience with in public health, having lived through different kinds of disasters. First, we start by characterizing the problem. Like Keith said, we have to be realistic. We have to be eyes wide open. So how bad is it? That's where we started. We have an entire team of people who are reading through all policy documents. What are they sneaking in there? What are they proposing that we're not seeing? Who is likely to say yes? Who is likely to say no? What is the probability that any of this will happen? That's the first step to know how bad it's going to be. Then the second step is asset mapping. So if this goes away, what assets do we have? We had a planning meeting last week where we looked at all of the things that need to be done, all of the things that are necessary. And in that meeting, we also looked at all of the different funding sources. Is it funded by Part A? Is it funded by Part B? Is it funded by EHE and other forces of funding? Now, this can be a high priority, but it is funded somewhere else. Maybe we should try and juggle so that nothing is left behind. So we are reordering our priorities and mapping the assets that we have. If there are things that can be supported at the community level through partnerships, then what is it that government uniquely can support so that we can ensure that there is nothing left behind? We need to rethink what care looks like. There are some things that we have put a lot of funding into before, treatment. But if new diagnosis continues to tick up, then we will never be able to sustain the gains. So I've asked my folks to think differently how we're investing in community engagement and education. Because there was an assumption that everybody knows about HIV, everybody knows what to do, but what happens? We start to see new HIV cases ticking up, and if we don't have the resources to support them, then we're in trouble. So we are rethinking where resources go to fill the gaps as our next step. Now, the last piece that I will ask, which is, again, is not just government, is those who know supporting those who don't. If this is all about what you as government is doing, you have survived for 25 years. There are folks in this room who have survived for 40 years. How can you be a resource to those who are new? And like, these are the things that I need. You need to go for your appointment. You need to take your medication. You know, those are not things that money will pay for. Those are things that love and community will help. Because we lost a lot of people, not because there were no resources, but because the systems were not there to support them in making the good decisions. So we are going to need to braid all these strategies to survive. But I know and I believe that this is temporary. It's been how many hundreds of years of trying to repress and suppress communities of color in this country, yet here we are. So this is another attempt to do that. And we have to muster all of the lessons that we have learned over time to say no. I chose America. I wasn't born here. I chose to come to this country because I have lived in places where there's patriarchy and there is misogyny and there are all kinds of things. And the reason I chose America is if there is one country in the world that you can fight and you can win, it is in this country.
Thank you. Can you briefly, we're going to close up, last comment.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Ige, and thank you for your commitment. And I would love to share your optimism that this is temporary. However, I, also, understand, Sanford, thank you for raising the point about the contingency plans and the disaster plans, because, we need to be prepared, obviously, and we are doing that at the same, in parallel, I think, with hoping that it's temporary. I guess, for me, the good news is that a lot of us have lived through this before when our community was under attack. It was different because it wasn't like half the country was under attack. But I think this country is coming to a reckoning, and I believe that we need to show them who we are. We need to stand up and show them why they need to care and why they need our help. And, not necessarily that we need dollars, but thinking about the system was broken before this all happened, right? And so what is the system? What are the structures in place? What are the solutions that we can come up with and will come up with to meet the needs of people living with HIV long-term, people who are vulnerable to HIV, and all of the other social determinants of health that are causing not only the pandemic, but other pandemics as well, right? So that's a whole nother line of thought I'm not going to get into, but I just want to say that we did it before, we can do it again, and yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
This has been great for a lot of reasons. Thank you all for participating. If you notice, I have on a Lion King shirt today.
Yeah.
I went to see Lion King for my birthday last week, and I love classic story, classic musical, but I think that we can take a lot of lessons from that story, right? We can think about folks who didn't believe fat meat was greasy, as my grandmama would say, and went over to the elephant graveyard, and dare I say, voted a certain way, right? And then what happens to Pride Rock, right? America is our Pride Rock. What happens to Pride Rock? And what does the king have to overcome in order to reclaim it? The stigma, the shame, right? And who brings them back around? Community. Nala, Rafiki, right? There are lessons to take from the Lion King about how we reclaim Pride Rock. Knowing that Pride Rock will not be the same ever, but we got to reclaim it.
I want to say thank you, all three of you. Excellent. But we're not finished honoring them, because what you've talked about is a circle of life. And we continue to be part of that circle of life. So with that said, those of you who can stand, let's honor this wonderfully nourishing conversation we had and thank them.